Hey everybody, this is James and you're watching my channel CAD Roll Hunter, and I'm excited again because once again we have pennies to hunt. All right, I'm excited because we got 20 rolls of pennies to hunt, and you know I love to ask for pennies at my bank. And our last penny hunt was absolutely epic. We got so many 40s and 50s pennies, King George VI, Elizabeth Laureate portrait. It was just wild. We actually also got a bunch of wheat pennies, and these here look like they might be similar in some respects. This looks like almost all copper. I don't think we have anything shiny. It was only in one of the rolls in our last hunt that we had just a handful, maybe like 15 or 20 zinc or steel pennies. And what does excite me is that on one roll here, I could see, oh, it's right here, a King George VI Ender. I didn't see any other George Enders. There's an American one there, but definitely this looks like a whole lot of copper. We can see some 12-sided edges and some round edges, so I'm really excited. We don't need to talk about it anymore. Let's just get in some rolls and hunt some pennies, see what we find. Roll number one, we got ourselves a Lincoln Memorial penny here, so we can expect to find a bunch of U.S. pennies. This one is a 1968, pretty decent shape too. Same roll, we got a 1978 under the scope here, and if you look up on the screen, this is another one of those minor varieties with the doubling on the date. This is the double 978. You can see doubling here and definitely the bottom of the 8. This is not a true double die. This is like a die deterioration type of error. It's really common on the 78s and the 79s. We found a bunch in my last number of videos. So if you haven't watched my recent penny hunts, I'll put a link up here to my penny hunts so that you can see those where we found a bunch of these. This one is a pretty brown scent. Maybe we'll find something a little bit more red here and add to our collection. Roll number two, we got ourselves a find, a pretty shiny looking 1978. That one's got lots of luster on it. We can throw it under the scope, of course, and see if we've got any doubling on this one. And we don't. There's some discoloration on there too. But we'll add that to the board as a find, a pretty nice looking 70s penny. Same roll, we got ourselves a 1967 Confederation commemorator. Well, of course, we're going to scope it and see if we've got any doubling on the date. And we don't have any there, and not on Regina. So we haven't found another double die since our big haul. If you didn't check that one out, you got to see that video. We found 25 double dies in 2 rolls of uncirculated 1967s. It was just amazing. I'll put a link up in the top corner here for you to find that video. Same roll, we got a 1965, so we definitely have to put it under the scope to see if we have one of the elusive pointed 5 varieties. And we don't. It's the blunt 5. That pointed 5 would be much more acute on the end there. So we haven't found one yet hunting, but we're going to keep looking. And this is awesome. Just a couple coins later, and we have found ourselves a wheat scent. And oh, a 1978 Blazer right behind it. So this is a good roll already. We'll see what we got here. This appears to be a 1946 out of Philadelphia. And then let's have a look at this one here. Oh, that is just beautiful. 1978. We'll scope that one too. See if we've got any of the doubling. And it looks like we do. It looks like we've got some under that 7 and more like a shadow under the 8. But that's a nice coin regardless. Same roll in our oldest of the hunt so far. And I say so far because we know we've got a King George VI as an ender there. But this is a Laureate portrait 1960. We'll add that one to the board as our first Laureate portrait. And just a little bit later, we got a really nice 1979. It is, I've already scoped it. It is not one of the double date ones. So we'll put that on our board here along our nice and shiny coppers. Same roll, we got another beautiful 1978. This is just fantastic. Look at the mirror finish. It almost seems like it's a proof-like, and it very well could be. Just looking at the edge on that there. This might have come out of a pack or a mint set or something like that. It's hard to know. And just at the end of that roll, we found ourselves another Laureate portrait. This is a 1961, our first of the hunt. Well, the ender on roll number 3 here is a laureate portrait 1964. I didn't look close enough at it to see that that was the case, but that's our first 64. Probably won't be our last. That seems to be the one that we find in great quantities when we find some older copper Canadian cents. We're just a bit into that roll, and we found our first King George VI, a 1947, our first of the hunt. We'll put it on the board there. We know we've at least got one more in one of the rolls here, and we might find more in here. We'll see. And this looks like a pretty nice looking as I'm looking at it. 1981. It's got some... It's not terrible, but it's not as good as I thought, just the way the light was striking it. I got a couple things to show you because I pulled out this 1985 to throw it under the scope to see, of course, if it's the blunt 5 or the pointed 5. It's just the blunt 5. But look at what was right behind it. This gorgeous, it almost looks like it might be like a proof like it has almost a frosted appearance. We don't know what it is yet. It is a gorgeous 1964. That is fantastic. Same roll, and we found ourselves a Blazer copper US cent. This is a 1977, and it looks to be like in super fantastic shape. That is a keeper, no doubt. And the Blazers keep coming in this one. Here's another one here. This time it is a 1979. We'll scope it too. And no sign of doubling, but that one is just a gorgeous one. So we'll add that to our board. And right behind that, another gorgeous 1978. Roll number 4, and we got ourselves a really nice looking 1977. A little bit of a spot on the back, but otherwise pretty decent coin for being over 44 years old. Same roll, and we found our second 1961. And right behind it, just check this out. Blazer 79 and a Blazer 79. Just fantastic. It's got some fingerprint on the back there. We'll scope it anyway. We'll see if we got any of the doubling. Looks like there's a little bit on the 9, nothing on the 7. So that's a double 9 for sure, in pretty decent shape. Same roll, and the 80s have come out to play. Just a little further back. What do we got here? Oh, it's an older one, a 1956. Roll number 5, and we got another gorgeous 1980. This is fantastic. Same roll and got a 1979 Blazer, but when I put this one under the scope, check out the doubling on this date. There's doubling on the 9, the 7, and you can see it on the side of this 9 as well. If we just give it a little rotate, sometimes you can see a little bit better. But there's some great doubling, and it's in wonderful shape too. Still in roll number 5, and we found ourselves another laureate portrait. Looks pretty slick. It's our first 1962 of the hunt. Same roll, and we got ourselves a really nice 1970 Lincoln Memorial Copper. And we're going to have a couple more finds in this same roll, because here is a 1961 to add to the board. And then this looks like it could be a bit of a copper Blazer too. 1978 Denver. Roll number 6, and we found a first-year Lincoln Memorial. This one's a 1959 out of Denver. And I don't even believe this is one that I have in my collection. So this is definitely one for the board. A 50s Lincoln. That's not a wheat cent. It's the only one it could be. Same roll, and I got a pretty nice 78 under the scope, and it's got some signs of that die deterioration doubling. We can see it on the side of the 8 and over here at the base of the 7. It's a little more clear using my eyes than on the screen, but it's a double 7-8. Roll number 7, we got a 1963 laureate portrait, and then right behind it, we got a 1979, a gorgeous looking 79 Blazer. We'll scope that bad boy, see if there's any doubling on the date. Not on this one. And this is what most of them look like, in case you're wondering how many of them have doubling. Most of them don't. Most of them look just like this. But we're finding a fair number of the ones that do still. Same roll, and we got ourselves another Wheatie. It's a 1953 out of Denver. It's pretty worn, but we can't complain about getting a Wheatie. That's awesome. And they just keep coming. Look at this beauty here. We're going to throw this under the scope and see if there's any doubling happening on this one. And I don't see any at all, but this one is just gorgeous. Maybe the best we've found so far. Just a few coins back. Got another 78. Just gorgeous. Look at that. Just about to crack into roll number 8. This is the one with our King George VI Ender. So we'll find out in a moment exactly what this is and if he's got any friends inside. All right, we laid down our roll and we can see here. Oh, we got a 1949, which is awesome. We'll add that to the board, but I can see right behind it, we got a wheat cent, a 1945. There we go, Philadelphia. And then followed by another 1978 gorgeous cent. And this roll is going to keep on giving. There's another George right there, a 1950. And then we got, this is much like our last one, a 1964. And it makes me wonder, what was this all about? Was this somebody's collection? Because we're finding another gorgeous 78. And that might be where the really good stuff stops there. Well, we got a 69. We can scope that. There's a double 69 version on here, and that's not it for sure. But we also saw this 1967. We may as well throw it under the scope. No doubling on the date. And I see some scratches, but no doubling on the legend on the other side. And then, of course, a gorgeous 1977, and then another King George, this 1940. All right, I'll bring you back in if we find anything more, but this might be another great roll right here. Still in the same roll, we got another wheat cent, and it is a 1949 Philadelphia. We're getting towards the end of that roll, and we got another George VI, this time a 1940. We're into roll number 9, and just like our last penny hunt, we haven't found any zinc or steel Canadian pennies. Everything has been copper, and this is all of the zinc American cents we found. We found a lot of copper, and so bringing you in for a couple of things. That's just an observation. One is that I got a 1985 under the scope, and we found a whole bunch of these, and so far they've all been the blunt 5. But I wanted to show you this because in this roll we got another King George VI. This one is a 1950. That's our first 1950 of this hunt. My bad. I went to go put it on the board, and I could see that we, in fact, already had a 1950. So it's our second 1950 of the hunt. Just a little ways back, another George, 1945. And we got another 1963 laureate portrait in the same roll, joining the party, as well as another Blazer, 1981. We're just finding some gorgeous Canadian cents, and we found a few gorgeous US ones too. So this hunt has been pretty fantastic. Same roll, and it's our second 1963. And just a little further back, check out this 1970. Look at that shine. With that kind of shine, that might even be like a proof like from a mint set. I just cracked into roll number 11, and we got our third 1964 laureate portrait. Roll number 12, and we had ourselves a George VI Ender. I didn't notice it. I didn't look closely enough at the date, but we got ourselves a 1947 to add to our board of 40s finds. What else could be in there? Didn't take long to get an answer to the question. What else could be in there is another 1964 laureate portrait. One of the next coins, I was just about to toss this aside because I thought this was like a late 60s to early 80s Canadian, but it's actually a Commonwealth of the Bahamas. It's the same portrait of the Queen, but we got a starfish on there. This one's from 1979. It's got some corrosion on it because it was right behind this other one that was kind of in really rough shape. But we got ourselves a foreign on the board that's not an American. Got roll number 13 open here, and I just wanted to give you a sense of kind of what I'm seeing. So we've found a bunch of really beautiful coins, and you'll see some with the really red edges are likely ones, especially the ones that aren't the 12. These might be some of those 70s that are in really gorgeous shape that we're finding. So I think we'll find a few more Blazers in this roll too. And here's some of those ones that we saw. There's a really nice 77. That one's all right, but there's a beautiful 1980. And what else we got here? Oh, a 77. And we found ourselves a King George, a 1951. Awesome. Same roll, and I can see we're going to have a couple more here. a gorgeous 79, which I'll scope. I'll tell you if there's any doubling on that, and this 1980 as well. So these rolls are full of lots of great stuff. This is pretty awesome. And just a bit further back, we got ourselves a 64, and then another gorgeous one here. Let's see what we got. It's a 1980, and just behind it, we have another really nice one, 79. And we may as well take a peek at this guy here too. I'll check it. It's got some toning. It's not quite as good as the rest. It might not be a keeper, I don't think, but roll number 14, and the hits keep on coming. Here's a beautiful 76. One of the things we'll check for this one is that rotated die. There's some marks on it, but the 1976 were subject to some misaligned dies, so this one is totally aligned properly, but some of them are, when you flip them over on their axis, might show fairly significant rotation. Not this one though. Same roll, another early Elizabeth. This one here is another 64. Right off the bat, roll number 15, we got ourselves a 1962, and I think we might have a bit of a US copper blazer back there. We'll see. We'll get to it in a bit. Well, it's definitely shiny, but when I flip it over, it's just a 1989 zinc penny, which we have, and it's not even in all that great shape. You can see what a fingerprint has done to it already. So we'll just toss it aside, and we'll keep on looking. Roll number 16, and I found a 1967, and of course, as I do, I put them all under the scope. And when I looked at the date, I didn't see any doubling here. When I flip it over, I do see something interesting though. So I always look at Regina first, and we're not seeing the really substantial doubling like we've seen in some of the other ones we've looked at, but there is some doubling. It might be like machine doubling. You can see it on the top of the N and the G. It's actually more pronounced when I look at Elizabeth, and you can see it by the B there, the E, the cross of the H. So this isn't exactly the same double die variety. This is probably just machine doubling on here. But it's an interesting one to see and find. It's really minor. It's again, it's easier for me to see just by my eyes than you're seeing through the phone, but you can see it at the top of the B over here on most of these letters. So it pays to scope because these are really hard to see with the naked eye. And if you find the true double die variety, you will see significant doubling, and primarily on DG Regina. You'll see completely split serifs on the G. So keep your eyes open for that. Same roll, a little ways back, another Laureate Portrait 1963 to add to our growing stack. I think this is our fourth 63 so far. And right behind it is another first-year Lincoln Memorial. We got the 59D earlier. Now we have the 59 out of Philadelphia, which is pretty cool because I don't think I have either of them in my collection already. Just at the end of that roll, we got another 64. We're into roll number 17. I got another 67 under the scope, and there's something very interesting going on here with this one. And you can see on all of these letters another impression of the letter. There's definitely doubling happening here. You can see it on the R way over there, like it's rotated. The E, the G. If I rotate it around, we can see it on the T and the H, but the other way. This is a little bit different than other doubled versions I've found. I'm going to set this one aside. This is really interesting. I'm going to see if I can look more into it and find if there are others that are like this. This appears to be something a little bit different, but it's very visible on many of these letters. Roll 18, second coin in, we got ourselves another 1961. This is just our second 61 of the hunt with the Laureate Portrait of the Queen. Very last coin of that roll, we have another early Elizabeth. This one is another 63. Roll number 19, we're going to have a couple other nice ones here. So this one is a 1980. 76, it's got a fingerprint on it. And so, yeah, this hunt has not disappointed at all with finding some beautiful coins. And right behind those, a 1964. We got a 1973 here, US, and I was just about to toss this onto my pile of US copper, But there's something interesting happening on with this coin. You can see it's actually offset. It's got a thick rim on the top left there of the obverse and a very thin, almost non-existent rim by the date. If we flip it over, we see the same thing, but what that has the effect of is the coin appears to be really narrow on one side. It's really hard to see here, but in the roll I could actually see that it was narrower on one side. But this is an offset coin, a mint error. It's not significant. It's probably not even worth anything, but I'm probably going to flip this up and add it to my collection because it's an interesting find, and I don't think I have anything quite like this. Same roll. We got another oldie here. This time it is a 62. And she had a friend with her just a couple of coins behind. And this is the very next coin, so it makes me think I should look at the next one just in case. Yeah, we got another laureate, 63. So interesting. And then just one more behind that, a 1960. And then the last coin of that roll was a pretty nice 1976. We've got one more roll to go to see what else we can find. I'm sure we'll find something because we found something in every single roll. When we're done, of course, we'll do a wrap up and we'll let you know everything that we found over here. I just laid out roll number 20 and I could see it by the edge because I knew what I was looking for this time, but we found another offset error. This is a 1982 large date. I weighed it up. It's the copper version. And you can see I think it's more pronounced on the obverse, but there's almost no rim whatsoever to the left of Abe. And on the right-hand side, it's quite a bit thicker. So we'll add this to the board. This is our second offset strike error that we found here. Again, it's probably not worth much money, but it's very interesting, and I'll probably flip it up and add it to my collection because now I've got two. Well, we finished that roll, and we actually didn't find anything other than that misaligned die, except perhaps for these two coins, a decent-looking 1975 that is fused together to this other coin. It's not unusual that you would find two coins stuck to one another. There's all sorts of gunk you can find in here. But I have used my best effort without any tools to try to get these things apart, and I can't get them apart. It's like they've been super glued. Not too concerned. I think these can just go in the pile here. I'm going to organize all of these finds and I'll give you a wrap up. This is another really fun hunt with lots of great finds, and give me a second. I'll be right back. Well, you can see the carnage from our completed penny hunt, and it was a dandy. We got lots of great stuff here. I'll go through it with you right now. We ended up getting 59 copper US pennies, and that includes some of these really nice ones here. This 70, 77, 78D, 80, 80D, and the 82, that's the copper. I'm going to check my collection to see if any of these are better than what I've found previously. We found a couple of offset strike errors, that 73 and that 82. So those are really interesting finds. And then the oldest US of the hunt, of course, we found this 45 wheat cent, this 46, 49, a 53D, and a couple of first year Lincoln Memorials, the 59 and 59 Denver. So that's pretty awesome. In the Canadian pennies, we found lots of really great looking pennies. I'm going to start here. This 1970, you can see it. It really has a proof-like look to it. I wouldn't be surprised if this had come out of a set. Next to it, 73, 74, 75. We basically found some pretty nice coins in every year. I just took a sampling of them here to show there's kind of some stacks at the back there of the nicer ones that we found. And then in the Elizabeth Laureate portraits, we found 25 in total, spanning from 56 was the earliest year all the way to 64. And we found this really gorgeous one right here, that 64. I'm going to flip that up. That's probably, it might be an upgrade in my collection. Definitely a one we want to keep in great shape. And then our oldest Canadians of the hunt were some George VIs that we found. We found 9 altogether, a couple 40s, a 45, a couple 47s, a 49. Now that's the A pointing between the denticles, so it's not the rare one. A couple 1950s and a 1951. All told, we found tons of great stuff. It was so much fun to go through pennies, and you never know what you're going to find. Of course, they haven't been circulating in Canada for 10 years now, just about. So this is probably what somebody had in a coin collection or maybe in a coin jar or something like that, a piggy bank, and they've taken them to the bank, and well, I've rescued them and we found some dandies here. I really hope that you've enjoyed this hunt. If you have, please give this video a like. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, Cad Roll Hunter, please do that. And tune in again soon. We got lots of videos coming up. I love to share my finds with you guys, so please watch regularly. I'll see you soon. Take care and have a great day.